You see, the organization was formed in 1946, right after World War II, when our illustrious founders realized that so much could be done and should be done in the Black community.
When you think about what was happening in the country at the time, voter suppression, segregation in housing, discrimination in employment, in redlining, former veterans coming home and not being able to participate in the GI Bill.
There was kind of an interesting juxtaposition. I think you had Washington, D.C. as sort of a center of Black excellence. You had Howard University here, you had Dunbar High School here, you had a number of groups of people who were moving here because it was such a center.
Previous years, when I was in the Norfolk chapter, at almost every meeting, there was some reference to the Washington, D.C. chapter. Washington was the leader. They set the pace, and everyone looked to Washington for direction. So at the meetings, they talk about, well, the Washington, D.C. chapter is going to do this. Well, Eula Trigg of the Washington chapter said so-and-so. Well, Bobby Scott of the Washington chapter believes such and such should be done. So I'd heard so much about the Washington chapter before I even affiliated.
The charter members, like a lot of African American women at the time, were educators in the Washington, D.C. area. Some were public school teachers, some taught at Howard University. Bernice Thomas, who was one of our founders, worked in the D.C. public schools. Her co-founder, Ruth Young, worked for Howard University. And they came together and really focused a lot of their activities, as you might expect, on young people, and on education and on expanding the horizons of a lot of the children in the Washington, D.C. area.
The ladies of the chapter, my Link Sisters, are a phenomenal group of women who have used their professional contacts, their professional expertise, and their compassion to serve the Washington, D.C. community. And the Washington, D.C. community, you know, is special because this is a city of the world. So to have this chapter, the Washington, D.C. chapter, serving the nation's capital, I've seen the work be deeply impactful and meaningful.
They're movers and shakers in Washington, D.C., which is the epitome of policy making, of education, of government, women who care about giving back to the community. And I think that's one of the most important things about what we do.
When I first joined the chapter, I was probably the youngest member, and I can say that I'm happy to see a lot more younger women joining the Washington, D.C. chapter.
When I reflect on the intergenerational bond of our chapter, I just think back when I was a younger mom. I guess some may still consider me a younger mom, but how much the chapter members really came to me, asked if I need help, asked how I was doing. You know, we have so many people in our lives that say, hey, how are you doing? And they keep going. I find that in our chapter, they ask how you're doing and they really care to hear the answer.
I was raised, I would say, around the links, you know, being raised with my grandmother. I love the richness, the sophistication, the class is bar none. But most importantly, take it back to just that true friendship and how people show up for one another. And it's sincere and it's genuine, it's authentic and it's unmatched.
It means meeting people whose past normally would not cross with mine. But once we meet, we find out we have so much in common. We enjoy one another's company, and we have similar goals in doing for others in the community.
The impact of the chapter on the organization as a whole, several of our programs have gone from being a local chapter program to being a national initiative, the Links to Healthy Smiles and the Caregivers Forum. In addition, it was really the Washington, D.C. chapter that spearheaded the gift that the organization made to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So I think that we've really been a leader in trying to identify issues and then bringing them to the attention of the national organization.
This chapter is on the national stage. It has women who are professionals and leading in their fields in their own right. And I think what's going to continue to make the difference is their compassionate service and interest in accelerating education equity, health equity, access and opportunity for individuals who've been locked out of access and opportunity.
The core philosophy that has remained is that we're here to do a service, and also to always remember that we are links in the friendship chain, and that, you know, we have to respect, each one of us have to respect each other.
Personally, I think that the links represents friendship and giving back. I think we're blessed to be a blessing. I think that we all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And it is important for us to remember who we are and where we came from. Because if we don't remember our history, we're going to repeat some of the same mistakes. And I think one of the reasons they're trying to erase our history is because our history is so rich that if we share that with our young people, there's nothing they can't do.
The next 75 years of the Washington, D.C. chapter will look tremendous. We'll be working across the city, doing all kinds of community service activities all at once. And I think what we'll see is our name will be known across the city for doing great, wonderful things.
I really see us growing in scholars. I see us growing in scholarship funding, and I see us growing in partnerships in the community. Our hope is that we can not only provide the scholarships for our youth, but that we also can provide mentorship and a lot of other supports that will take them to new levels.
Continued excellence. I think an elevation of our programs. Obviously, there's going to be a lot changing inside the world, and we have 5 facets that we support that we're completely dedicated to. I think it's going to be the evolution of those facets and our ability in which to be able to do more.
Well, it's just wonderful to be a member of this organization. It was great to grow up hearing my mother talk about the links, and then finally being old enough to join and going to meetings with her and associating with these ladies I had known all of my life, and then to come to Washington and actually meet these women whose names I had heard mentioned in Norfolk. So it's come full circle that I'm in the Washington, D.C. chapter, and I've really enjoyed the experience, and I'm very honored and grateful to have had the privilege of being a member of this group.